From underground electro parties to defining an entire generation, West Coast hip-hop transformed from 3,000 people in a warehouse to dominating global music in just 17 years. Before NWA, before gangsta rap, the West Coast sound was built on drum machines and synthesizers, not street narratives. This is the complete evolution of West Coast hip-hop from 1982 to 1999. Every major shift, every groundbreaking moment, every artist that changed the game. We'll witness the electro-funk origins in 1983, experience the birth of gangsta rap in 1986, and see how Dr. Dre's The Chronic in 1992 created a sound that dominated the entire decade. We're also covering the tragic events of 1996 and 97 that shook hip-hop to its core. This evolution is verified with chart data, FBI documents, and industry records. You'll hear the exact moment West Coast hip-hop shifted from party music to social commentary, from underground movement to mainstream dominance. Let's start at the beginning. 1982 Los Angeles, when nobody outside California knew West Coast rap even existed. 1982 through 1985, the electro-funk genesis. While New York was developing the foundational elements of hip-hop, Los Angeles was creating its own distinct sound, and it was nothing like what you'd expect. The West Coast's first sound wasn't gangsta rap or G-funk. It was electro-funk, built on Roland TR 808 drum machines and synthesizer melodies, heavily influenced by Africa Bambaataa Planet Rock. In the late 1970s, Alonzo Williams, a young DJ from Compton, started throwing parties as disco construction. He partnered with Roger Clayton, who created Uncle Jam's Army, a mobile DJ collective that hosted massive parties for thousands of people. The Egyptian Lover, whose real name is Gregory Broussard, emerged from Uncle Jam's Army and became one of the scene's biggest stars. Around 1984, he released his album On the Nile, which included the West Coast anthem Egypt, Egypt. His sexy, funk-driven electro sound was hugely influential. But the group that would change everything was forming simultaneously. Alonzo Williams created the world-class Wreckin' Crew, which became the house DJs at his nightclub Eve After Dark in Compton. This group included two young DJs who would later reshape hip-hop entirely, Andre Dr. Dre Young and Antoine DJ Yella Caribe. Their early music, like the track Surgery, was pure electro-funk with heavy synthesizers and dance beats. The 1985 single Turn Off the Lights, featuring Michelle, reportedly peaked around number 54 on Billboard's Black Singles chart, becoming the Wreckin' Crew's biggest hit. A critical breakthrough came from K-Day, a Los Angeles radio station at 1580 AM. Program director Greg Mack, Attack Mack, made K-Day the first radio station in the world to play hip-hop music 24 hours a day. This unprecedented platform helped the West Coast scene grow exponentially. Meanwhile, in Oakland, Too Short was building his career by literally selling mixtapes out of his car trunk, developing what would become known as pimp rap with his distinct Bay Area sound. But by 1985, the scene was about to transform completely. The party was ending, and the streets were about to speak. 1986 through 1988, the birth of gangsta rap. While the Wreckin' Crew was still making dance music, a different sound was emerging from the streets of South Central Los Angeles. In 1986, Ice-T, born Tracy Merrow, released a song that many consider the blueprint for gangsta rap, 6 in the Mornin'. This track first appeared as the B-side of Dog and the Wax Ya Don't Quit Part 2, and later on his 1987 debut album Rhyme Pays. The song's narrative about evading police, street life, and survival was unlike anything the West Coast had produced before. Ice-T drew inspiration from Philadelphia rapper Schoolie D, but gave it a distinctly West Coast perspective. 6 in the Mornin' is widely credited as one of the first true gangsta rap records, predating NWA's work by approximately 2 years. Rhyme Pays also became the first hip-hop album to carry a parental advisory warning label, signaling how controversial this new style would become. Meanwhile, Dr. Dre was growing frustrated with the world-class Wreckin' Crew's glitzy image and soft sound. He wanted to make something harder, something real. In 1987, Dre began working with Eric Eazy-E Wright, a local entrepreneur, on side projects in the Crew Cut studio. Along with O'Shea Ice Cube Jackson and Arabian Prince, they formed NWA, which stood for N-Sues with Attitude. Their early work appeared on compilation albums, but everything changed on August 8, 1988, when they released Straight Outta Compton. This album was reportedly recorded in just 6 weeks for approximately $12,000 in Audio Achievement Studio in Torrance, California. The album's opening tracks, Straight Outta Compton, F the Police, and Gangsta Gangsta, set a new standard for aggressive, confrontational hip-hop that directly addressed police brutality and street life. The production, handled by Dr. Dre and DJ Yella, moved beyond simple electro beats to create something fuller and funkier, sampling heavily from funk records. Ice Cube's lyrics were uncompromising, detailed, and forceful, painting vivid pictures of life in Compton that mainstream America had never heard before. The album went gold by April 1989 and platinum by July, all without significant radio play or MTV support. Gangsta rap had officially arrived. 1989 through 1991, NWA dominance and the FBI controversy. Straight Outta Compton wasn't just a hit album. It became a cultural lightning rod that attracted attention from the highest levels of government. On August 1, 1989, Milt Ulrich, assistant director of the FBI Office of Public Affairs, sent an official letter to Priority Records, the label that distributed NWA's album. The letter specifically targeted the song F the Police, stating it encouraged violence against law enforcement officers. Ulrich wrote, quote, "I wanted you to be aware of the FBI's position relative to this song and its message. I believe my views reflect the opinion of the entire law enforcement community." End quote. This was an unprecedented move by a federal agency to pressure a record label over artistic content. The American Civil Liberties Union immediately condemned the letter, with representatives stating it was completely inappropriate for any government agency to influence what artists create. But the controversy only made NWA more popular. The FBI letter became a marketing tool, proving that the group's message was powerful enough to threaten authority. Police departments across the country began pressuring venues to cancel NWA concerts. Shows were jeopardized or shut down in Detroit, Washington, D.C., Chattanooga, Milwaukee, and Tyler, Texas. Despite the opposition, or perhaps because of it, NWA became the world's most dangerous group and one of the most intriguing acts in music. By 1990, internal tensions were rising. Ice Cube left the group in December 1989 over financial disputes, feeling he wasn't being paid fairly for his songwriting contributions. He released his solo debut, America's Most Wanted, in May 1990, which was critically acclaimed and commercially successful, proving he didn't need NWA. The remaining members released the EP 100 Miles and Runnin' in 1990, and the album Efil for Zagen, which is N Srux for Life spelled backwards, in May 1991. The album reportedly debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. But by late 1991, Dr. Dre was also ready to leave. He felt creatively stifled, and had disputes with manager Jerry Heller and Eazy-E over money and control. Dre's departure would lead to the next massive evolution in West Coast sound. Okay, we've covered the electro-funk origins through the NWA era and the FBI controversy. If you're loving this deep dive into West Coast hip-hop's evolution, hit that subscribe button, because we're about to get into 1992 through 1995, where Dr. Dre creates G-Funk and the West Coast absolutely dominates mainstream hip-hop. You don't want to miss this. 1992 through 1995, G-Funk takes over and dominates. After leaving Ruthless Records in 1991, Dr. Dre partnered with Marion Suge Knight to form Death Row Records. This move would prove to be one of the most significant moments in hip-hop history. Dre was angry, motivated, and ready to prove he was the true genius behind NWA's sound. On December 15, 1992, Dr. Dre released The Chronic, and hip-hop would never be the same. The album introduced G-Funk, a style built on Parliament funkadelic samples, live instrumentation, high-pitched synthesizer leads, deep bass, and smooth laid-back vocals. Dre used a Minimoog synthesizer to replay the melody from Leon Haywood's 1972 song I Wanna Do Something Freaky to You for the album's first single, Nothing But a G-Thang, which became a global hit. The single, featuring a then-unknown Long Beach rapper named Snoop Doggy Dogg, peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March 1993. It reportedly sold over 1 million copies and was certified platinum by the RIAA on March 24, 1993. Snoop's flow was revolutionary, laconic, and relaxed yet capable of rapid-fire delivery. His effortless style became instantly iconic and helped launch one of the biggest solo careers in hip-hop. The Chronic reached number 3 on the Billboard 200 and has been certified triple platinum in the United States. The album spent approximately 8 months in the Billboard Top 10, making Dr. Dre one of the top 10 best-selling American performing artists of 1993. Let Me Ride, another single from The Chronic, won Best Rap Solo Performance at the 1994 Grammy Awards, giving Dre his first Grammy. The G-Funk sound spread rapidly. Snoop Dogg's debut album Doggy Style, released in November 1993 and also produced by Dre, reportedly debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, selling approximately 800,000 copies in its first week. Other artists on Death Row Records, including Warren G, Nate Dogg, The Dog Pound, and The Lady of Rage, all contributed to the G-Funk movement. Warren G's Regulate became a massive crossover hit in 1994. The influence went beyond hip-hop. Artists as diverse as George Michael with Fast Love, Mariah Carey with Fantasy, and even the Spice Girls with Say You'll Be There used G-Funk instrumentation in their songs. Time magazine noted that Dr. Dre created a sound that defined early 1990s urban Los Angeles in the same way Motown defined 1960s Detroit.
But success brought new problems. Death Row Records, while commercially dominant, was becoming increasingly associated with violence and controversy. The stage was set for tragedy. 1996 through 1997, Death Row's peak in tragedy. 1996 started as Death Row Records' most successful year. In February, Tupac Shakur, who had signed to Death Row after being released from prison in 1995, released All Eyes on Me, hip-hop's first double album. The album was certified diamond, meaning it reportedly sold over 10 million copies in the United States, and included the massive hits California Love and How Do You Want It, both of which reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. All Eyes on Me won R&B Soul or Rap Album of the Year at the 1997 Soul Train Music Awards, and Tupac won Favorite Rap Hip-Hop Artist at the 1997 American Music Awards. But behind the success, tensions were escalating between the West Coast and East Coast hip-hop scenes, largely centered on Death Row Records and Bad Boy Records, home to Sean Diddy Combs and the Notorious B.I.G. On September 7, 1996, Tupac attended a Mike Tyson boxing match in Las Vegas with Suge Knight. After the fight, Tupac and Death Row associates were involved in a confrontation with Orlando Anderson, reportedly a member of the Southside Crips, in the MGM Grand Lobby. Later that night, around 11:15 p.m., while stopped at a red light at the intersection of Flamingo Road and Colville Lane, a white Cadillac pulled alongside Knight's BMW. Someone inside fired multiple shots from a .40 caliber Glock 22, hitting Tupac 4 times. Tupac was rushed to University Medical Center. Despite doctors' efforts, he died 6 days later on Friday, September 13, 1996, at 4:03 p.m. He was 25 years old. The murder sent shockwaves through the music world and intensified the East Coast-West Coast rivalry to dangerous levels. 6 months later, on March 9, 1997, the Notorious B.I.G. was in Los Angeles to promote his upcoming album Life After Death. After leaving a Soul Train Music Awards after-party at the Peterson Automotive Museum, Biggie's Suburban was stopped at a red light. A dark-colored Chevrolet Impala SS pulled alongside the vehicle. The driver, wearing a bow tie and blue suit, rolled down the window, drew a 9mm pistol, and fired 6 shots. 4 bullets hit Biggie. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where doctors performed emergency surgery. But Christopher Wallace, known as the Notorious B.I.G. or Biggie Smalls, was pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. He was 24 years old. Both murders remain officially unsolved to this day, though various theories and investigations have pointed to gang-related motives connected to the coastal rivalry. The deaths of Tupac and Biggie effectively ended the most volatile period of the East Coast-West Coast feud, and marked a turning point for hip-hop as a whole. Before we get to the post-tragedy transition period and how West Coast hip-hop evolved through 1999, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. We break down music evolution like this every week. 1998 through 1999, the post-tragedy transition. The aftermath of Tupac and Biggie's deaths left West Coast hip-hop in a state of mourning and uncertainty. Death Row Records, which had been the dominant force, began falling apart. Suge Knight faced legal troubles and was incarcerated in 1997 for violating parole. Dr. Dre had already left Death Row in March 1996, months before Tupac's death, frustrated with Knight's business practices and the label's violent reputation. In 1998, Dre focused on building Aftermath Entertainment, which he had founded in 1996. While his 1999 album 2001 wouldn't drop until the new millennium, he was already working with a young white rapper from Detroit named Marshall Mathers, better known as Eminem. The West Coast sound began diversifying beyond G-Funk. The Bay Area's hyphy movement was developing, though it wouldn't fully emerge until the early 2000s. Underground artists and independent labels started gaining traction. Snoop Dogg released albums like Da Game Is To Be Sold, Not To Be Told in 1998, attempting to move forward after the Death Row era. Other Death Row artists scattered to various labels, trying to rebuild careers. The coastal rivalry that had defined the mid-1990s was largely over. Artists and fans alike recognized that the beef had cost too much. Hip-hop began to focus more on southern scenes, particularly Atlanta, which would dominate the early 2000s. But the West Coast's influence was permanent. The G-Funk sound had changed production techniques across all of hip-hop. The gangsta rap blueprint created by Ice-T and perfected by NWA remained influential. The storytelling techniques, the focus on street narratives, the confrontational politics, all of it became foundational to hip-hop culture. By 1999, West Coast hip-hop had evolved from underground electro parties to mainstream dominance and tragic loss. The sound had gone global. Artists worldwide were influenced by the West Coast style. The scene would never again reach the commercial peak of 1992 through 1996, but it didn't need to. The West Coast had already changed music forever. From 1982's electro-funk warehouse parties to 1999's global influence, West Coast hip-hop traveled an incredible journey. The sound transformed completely at least 3 times. First from dance-oriented electro to confrontational gangster rap between 1986 and 1988. Second, from hard-edged gangster rap to smooth G-funk between 1991 and 1992. And third, from death row's dominance to a more diverse independent scene after 1997. The key transformation moments were Ice-T's 6 in the Morning in 1986, establishing gangsta rap's blueprint, NWA's Straight Outta Compton in 1988, proving gangsta rap could succeed commercially, and Dr. Dre's The Chronic in 1992, creating G-Funk and dominating mainstream music. The tragic losses of Tupac and Biggie in 1996 and 97 reminded everyone that the violence depicted in the music had real consequences. The lasting impact is everywhere. Modern West Coast artists like Kendrick Lamar, YG, and Ty Dolla $ign all build on the foundation laid between 1982 and 1999. Thanks for watching, and remember, the West Coast didn't just create a sound, they created a movement that changed music forever. See you in the next evolution.